The stars were never meant to look like that. Captain Elena Vasquez stared through the observation deck of the Earth starship Resilience, her knuckles white against the railing. Outside, the cosmos had transformed into something impossible. Nebulae spiraled in colors that had no names. Distant suns pulsed with rhythms that seemed almost deliberate. And everywhere she looked, structures hung in the void. Massive, gleaming cities that defied physics and reason. "Captain, sensors are completely scrambled," Lieutenant Marcus Chen called from the bridge behind her. His voice carried the weight of controlled panic. "We're reading atmospheric signatures from constructs that shouldn't exist. Some of these stations are the size of moons." Elena forced herself to breathe. They had been testing Earth's first experimental fold drive just beyond Neptune's orbit, when something went catastrophically wrong. The engine hadn't just failed. It had torn reality like paper, pulling the Resilience through a wound in space-time itself. Now they were somewhere else. "Someone else, life signs?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. "Everywhere, Captain." Chen's fingers danced across his console. "Thousands of species. Maybe millions. The signal diversity alone suggests a civilization that makes our entire history look like a rough draft." Elena turned to face her bridge crew. 12 humans, one small ship, and a galaxy that had no idea Earth even existed. "All hands, this is the captain," she said, activating ship-wide communications. "We don't know where we are, but we know what we are. We're explorers. We're survivors. And whatever happens next, we face it together. Resilience out." The bridge doors hissed open. Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's xenolinguist, rushed in, clutching her data pad like a lifeline. "Captain, you need to see this. I've been analyzing the electromagnetic chatter. It's not random. It's organized, structured, and I think it's everywhere." "Language?" Elena asked. "Languages, plural. Hundreds of them layered over each other like a symphony. But there's a dominant one. A common tongue. Captain, this isn't just a civilization. This is an empire. And it's been here for a very, very long time." Before Elena could respond, the Resilience shuddered. Alarms shrieked across every station. On the view screen, something massive materialized from the darkness. A vessel so enormous it made their ship look like a child's toy. Its hull was organic and metallic at once, flowing with patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Incoming transmission," Chen announced. "Audio and visual. They're hailing us." Elena straightened her uniform. "Put it through." The view screen flickered. What appeared before them defied easy description. The being had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, skin that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue, and a presence that radiated ancient authority. When it spoke, the words came through as growls and harmonics, but somehow impossibly. Elena understood fragments. "Unauthorized translation interference detected. Identify quarantine protocols. Dr. Kim?" Elena whispered. Sarah's fingers flew across her pad. "Their technology is translating for us, partially. It's reading our neural patterns, our speech centers." "Captain, they're scanning our brains." The alien being tilted its head, more sounds erupted from the transmission. But now the computer was working overtime to bridge the gap. The translation came through stilted and mechanical. "Unknown vessel. Unknown species. You have entered Galactic Council space without authorization. Your technology signature is primitive. Unregistered. How did you breach the outer barriers?" Elena stepped forward. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth starship Resilience. We come from a planet called Earth. We had an accident with our experimental drive. We mean no harm. We're just trying to get home." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Earth. Searching archives." A long pause. Then, with what might have been surprise, and no record exists. "Your species is unknown to the galactic census. In 200,000 cycles of cataloging, this is unprecedented. 200,000 years. The number hit Elena like a physical blow. This empire had been thriving since before humans even invented agriculture. "Are we in danger?" she asked plainly. The alien regarded her with an expression she couldn't read. "That depends. You are lost, Captain Vasquez. But the question is whether you are also dangerous. Quarantine ships are en route. You will be escorted to Council Station Primus 7 for assessment. Do not resist. Do not deviate. Many species have tried. None have succeeded." The transmission cut out. Chen turned to Elena, fear naked on his face. "Captain, We're outnumbered and out-teched by factors we can't even calculate. What do we do? Elena looked at her crew. Humans who had volunteered to push boundaries to reach beyond what was safe or certain. They weren't soldiers. They were scientists, engineers, dreamers. But they were also adaptable. It was humanity's greatest gift and most dangerous weapon. We do what we've always done, she said quietly. We learn, we adapt, and we survive. She turned to Sarah. Doctor, I want you studying everything about their language, their culture, their laws. If we're going to negotiate with a 200,000-year-old empire, we need to speak their language better than they do. Sarah's eyes widened, then hardened with determination. Understood. Chen, maintain sensor sweeps. I want to know everything about their ships, their stations, their technology. Find patterns. Find weaknesses. Yes, Captain. Elena returned to the viewport as massive escort vessels surrounded the Resilience like sharks circling prey. The journey to the council station would take hours. Hours to prepare, hours to transform from victims into players. They think we're lost, she said softly. Let's show them what humans do when we're lost. We don't wait for rescue. She smiled grimly. We draw our own map. Behind her, the crew moved with renewed purpose. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. Humanity had arrived. Council Station Primus 7 wasn't built. It was grown. As the Resilience approached under heavy escort, Elena could see it properly for the first time. The station stretched across space like a living sculpture. Organic towers intertwined with crystalline spires, all orbiting a central sphere that pulsed with soft light. Thousands of ships moved in precise patterns around it, representing species and civilizations that humanity didn't have words for yet. Station population estimated at 4 million, Chen reported, his voice hushed with awe, and that's just the permanent residents. Captain, there are vessels here from star systems we didn't know existed. Some of these species evolved while our ancestors were still in the oceans. Dr. Sarah Kim hadn't left her station in 6 hours. Her eyes were bloodshot, but they burned with fierce excitement. Captain, I've made progress. The dominant language, they call it Galactic Common, has a syntactic structure that's actually less complex than English. It's designed to be learned. A lingua franca for an empire of thousands of species. How much have you learned? Elena asked. In 6 hours? Basic greetings, essential phrases, navigational terms. Sarah looked up and there was wonder in her exhausted face. But Captain, their databases are partially open to us. They're observing how we access information. It's a test, then let's pass it, Elena said. Send me everything you've got. If I'm going before their council, I'm not going in blind. The docking procedure took another hour. When the Resilience finally settled into its designated berth, Elena had absorbed more information than she'd thought possible. Galactic Council structure, diplomatic protocols, species hierarchies. The more she learned, the clearer one truth became. Humanity was so far beneath the Empire's notice that they barely registered as sentient. The delegation that greeted them in the docking bay proved the point. 7 beings stood in a semicircle, representing 7 of the Council's major species. The Velthranians with their crystalline exoskeletons, the Morathians who seemed to shift between states of matter, the Krynics whose thoughts manifested as visible light around their heads, and others Elena couldn't name yet, but leading them was the same 4-eyed being from the transmission. As Elena and her officers Chen Kim and Chief Engineer Rebecca Walsh stepped onto the station, he spoke in that layered, harmonic voice. I am Counselor Thexara of the Velkreth Communion. The translation came through clearly now. Welcome to Primus 7, Captain Vasquez. You and your crew are the first unregistered sapients to reach this station in 47,000 cycles. Most find the journey terminal. It was meant to intimidate. Elena recognized the tactic. Then we're already beating expectations, she replied in halting Galactic Common, using the phrases Sarah had taught her. Every being in the delegation froze. Thexara's 4 eyes widened in unmistakable shock. You've learned Common, he said slowly, in 6 standard hours. We're fast learners, Elena said, switching back to English with the translator handling it. It's what we do best. One of the other counselors, a being of flowing light, stepped forward. Its voice came through as ethereal chimes. Impossible. Even the Krynics, who possess telepathic language acquisition, require 3 solar rotations to achieve basic fluency. Your species has no such adaptation. Dr. Kim stepped forward. her earlier exhaustion replaced by professional pride. No, we don't have telepathy, but we have something else. We call it determination. And a really good pattern recognition system in our brains. Also coffee, Chief Walsh added with a tired grin. Lots of coffee. Texera studied them with an intensity Elena could feel. You are either exceptional or excellent liars. The council will determine which follow. They were led through corridors that defied geometry. Walls flowed like water but held solid. Gravity adjusted from one section to another without transition. Beings of every conceivable shape moved past them, some walking, some floating, some existing in ways Elena's eyes struggled to process. They're staring at us, Chen whispered. Let them stare, Elena replied. We're staring back. The council chamber was vast enough to have its own weather. A curved amphitheater descended toward a central platform where the delegation stopped. Above them, in ascending tiers, sat hundreds of beings representing the Galactic Empire's member species. The oldest civilizations occupied the highest seats. The newest barely clung to the lowest. There was no seat for humanity. They didn't rank high enough to have one. You stand before the 19th Galactic Council, Texera announced, his voice amplified to fill the chamber. Captain Elena Vasquez of Earth. You claim your arrival was accidental. Our engineers have examined your vessel. Your fold drive technology is crude, unstable, and theoretically incapable of achieving the displacement you describe. Yet here we are, Elena said clearly. Yet here you are, Texera agreed, which suggests either a breakthrough or extraordinary luck. Tell us about Earth. Elena had prepared for this moment. Earth is a single planet in a solar system we call Sol. Population, 8 billion. We've only just reached our own moon with primitive chemical rockets. We have no faster-than-light capability, no energy shields, no galactic communication systems. By your standards, we're still in our infancy. Murmurs rippled through the council. Some voices sounded curious, others contemptuous. Then how? A voice boomed from the upper tiers. Did such primitives breach the outer barrier? Warships have tried and failed. You expect us to believe this was an accident? Elena felt the weight of hundreds of alien gazes. This was the moment. The test behind the test, yes, she said simply, because we didn't know it was there to breach. We weren't trying to invade your empire. We were trying to reach the stars in our own neighborhood. But our drive malfunctioned and physics did something unexpected. We didn't break your rules. We didn't know your rules existed. Ignorance is not innocence, another counselor stated coldly. Maybe not, Elena agreed. But it's also not aggression. You've had 200,000 years to perfect your civilization. We've had maybe 10,000. Give us credit for trying. Texera raised a hand, silencing the chamber. Your words are diplomatic, Captain. Almost too diplomatic for a species that claims no contact with galactic civilization. In 6 hours, you've learned our language. You've studied our protocols. You've adapted to our station without panic or violence. These are not the actions of primitives. He descended the platform until he stood before Elena, towering over her. So I ask you directly, what is humanity? Are you explorers? Warriors? Refugees? The council must know what we're dealing with. Elena met his four-eyed gaze without flinching. We're survivors, counselor. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars with ourselves, and disasters that should have ended us. We look at the impossible and ask how instead of if. You call us primitive, and maybe we are. But we're also the species that looked at the stars and decided they were reachable. That might make us ignorant. It also makes us dangerous, not to you, but to limitations. Any limitations? The chamber went silent. Then from somewhere in the upper tiers, a sound Elena didn't expect. The rhythmic pulse of what might have been applause. Texera's expression shifted, something that could have been respect. The council will deliberate, he announced. You will remain on the station under observation. If you are spies, saboteurs, or threats, you will be neutralized. But if you are what you claim, he paused, then perhaps the galaxy has been waiting for you without knowing it. As they were escorted out, Sarah leaned close to Elena. Captain, did we just negotiate with a 200,000-year-old empire? Elena allowed herself a small smile. We didn't just negotiate, Doctor. We made them curious. And in a galaxy this old, curiosity might be the most valuable thing we can offer. Behind them, the council erupted into debate. Humanity had entered the conversation. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 standard cycles. That's how long humanity had been on Primus 7. In those 72 hours, Captain Elena Vasquez and her Crew had done the impossible. They'd become the most talked-about species in the Galactic Empire. The Council had granted them limited access to the station while their case was deliberated. Limited access was all they needed. Dr. Sarah Kim had assembled a linguistic database that impressed even the Empire's most advanced translation AI. Lieutenant Marcus Chen had befriended a Crinix engineer who couldn't stop asking questions about human problem-solving methods. Chief Rebecca Walsh had jury-rigged a repair to a station water recycler that had been malfunctioning for 6 months, using nothing but spare parts and what she called good, old-fashioned human stubbornness, but it was Elena who had become something unexpected. Famous word had spread through the station's 4 million residents. The primitive captain who spoke directly to the Council. The lost species that learned Galactic Common in hours instead of weeks. The humans who looked at the Empire's ancient glory and weren't intimidated. They were inspired. Now, as Elena stood in the station's central observation lounge overlooking the cosmic vista, she wasn't alone. Beings from a dozen species had gathered at respectful distances, watching the human with curious eyes, sensors, and perception organs she couldn't identify. "They're afraid of you," a voice said behind her. Elena turned. Thexara stood there, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light from distant stars. But his posture was different now, less formal, more curious. "Afraid of me?" Elena asked. "Counselor, your ships could vaporize ours with a thought. Your technology is magic to us. What could possibly make you afraid?" Thexara moved to stand beside her at the viewport. "Change, Captain. We've been an empire for 200,000 cycles. We've seen species rise and fall. We've documented millions of worlds, cataloged billions of life forms. We thought we'd seen everything." He paused. "And then you arrived. One small ship hardly counts as revolutionary," Elena said. "It's not the ship," Thexara replied. "It's what you represent. In 3 cycles, your Dr. Kim has proposed 7 modifications to our translation matrices. 5 have already been implemented across the network. Your engineer Walsh identified inefficiencies in our station systems that our maintenance AI missed for decades. And you, Captain, you addressed the Council not with fear or submission, but with something we'd almost forgotten." "What's that?" "Audacity." Thexara's 4 eyes fixed on her. "Do you know what happens to most species when they first encounter the Empire? They bow, they submit, they accept their place in the hierarchy. But humans? You saw 200,000 years of civilization and thought we can learn from this." Elena smiled slightly. "Is that a problem?" "It's refreshing," Thexara said, and there was something like amusement in his harmonics. "The Council has reached a decision, Captain. That's why I'm here." Elena's heart rate spiked, but she kept her expression calm. "And the Council recognizes Earth as a sovereign world. Humanity is granted provisional membership in the galactic community, subject to observation and continued assessment. You're also being assigned a diplomatic liaison and given access to our navigation databases so you can find your way home." Relief flooded through Elena, but Thexara wasn't finished. "There's more. The Council is divided. Some see your species as a liability, unpredictable, potentially dangerous. They wanted quarantine protocols, limited contact, centuries of observation before full integration." His 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "But others, myself included, see something else. We see a species that looks at the impossible and doesn't blink. That learns in hours what takes others cycles. That adapts not by changing who you are, but by changing how you think." He turned to face her fully. "Captain Vasquez, the Empire has been stable for so long that we've forgotten how to dream. We catalog. We maintain. We preserve. But we rarely innovate. Rarely risk. Rarely reach for something we don't already understand." He gestured at the stars. "You've been here 3 cycles, and already you've reminded us what we lost. The Council is calling you the Lost Ones, but I think that's wrong. What would you call us?" Elena asked. "The ones who taught us to dream again," Thexara said quietly. Footsteps echoed behind them. Dr. Kim, Chen, and Walsh approached, their expressions uncertain but hopeful. "Captain, Counselor," Sarah said with a respectful nod. "Sorry to interrupt, but there's something happening in the Council chamber. They're requesting your presence. All of us." Thexara's posture shifted, something like anticipation. "It's beginning." "What's beginning?" Elena asked. "Come, you'll see." The council chamber had transformed. Where before it had been formal, almost cold, now it thrummed with energy. Every tier was filled. Species that usually avoided each other sat side by side. The air itself seemed electric with possibility. As Elena and her crew entered, something unprecedented happened. The chamber erupted in sound. Not quite applause. Different species had different ways of showing approval, but unmistakably welcoming. Crystalline chimes, harmonic pulses, bioluminescent flashes, and a dozen other signals washed over them. Thexara led them to the central platform. When the chamber quieted, he spoke. 200,000 cycles ago, the first council established this empire to bring order to chaos, to unite species that had known only conflict, to create a civilization that would endure across the ages. His voice resonated through the vast space. We succeeded, but in our success we became cautious, conservative. We stopped asking what if and started asking why risk it. He gestured to Elena and her crew. These humans have been here 3 cycles. 3. And in that time they've reminded every species in this chamber of something vital. Curiosity is not a weakness. Adaptation is not surrender. And reaching beyond your grasp is not foolishness, it's courage. Another counselor rose, the being of flowing light. The human engineer Walsh has revolutionized our maintenance algorithms. The human linguist Kim has improved communication across 17 species barriers. And the human Captain Vasquez has shown us that even the smallest can stand with dignity before the greatest. The chamber erupted again. Elena felt her cheeks flush. Beside her, Walsh was grinning. Chen looked stunned. Kim had tears in her eyes. Thexara raised his hand for silence. Therefore, by council decree, humanity is not only recognized but welcomed. Earth will receive our protection, our knowledge, and our friendship. In return, we ask only that you continue being what you are. Explorers, dreamers, and the ones who show us what we've forgotten. He looked directly at Elena. Captain Vasquez, the Empire is old, ancient by your standards. We thought we knew everything, but you've proven something we'd forgotten. There's always more to learn, always farther to reach, always another dream waiting beyond the horizon. Elena stepped forward, her voice steady, clear, and filled with emotion she no longer tried to hide. Counselor Thexara, members of the council, 3 cycles ago we were lost, stranded, terrified. We thought we'd stumbled into something far beyond us. She smiled. We were right. This empire, this civilization, it's magnificent. It's everything we hoped the stars would hold. She looked up at the tiers, meeting as many gazes as she could. But if we've taught you anything, it's because you were willing to learn. You could have destroyed us, ignored us, sent us home with a warning to never return. Instead, you listened. You watched. You gave us a chance. Her voice grew stronger. That's not just wisdom, counselors. That's hope, and that's why we know beyond any doubt that this galaxy has a future as bright as its past. She placed her hand over her heart, a human gesture, but one that somehow transcended translation. We came here by accident, but if you'll have us, we'd like to stay. Not as subjects, not as primitives seeking your approval. She smiled. As partners, as friends, as the ones who look at your incredible civilization and ask, and what's next? The chamber didn't erupt this time. Instead, a profound silence fell, the kind that speaks louder than any noise. Then slowly, deliberately, Thexara placed his hand over where Elena guessed his heart would be. One by one, every being in the chamber did the same, each according to their physiology. It was a gesture of respect, of acceptance, of unity. Thexara's voice was soft now, meant only for Elena and her crew. Welcome to the Galactic Empire, humans. We don't know what you'll teach us next, but for the first time in millennia, we're excited to find out. 12 cycles later, the Resilience prepared for departure, but it wasn't leaving alone. The Empire had provided updated navigation data, a communication relay, and, most importantly, an invitation. Earth would receive a diplomatic delegation, the first official contact between humanity and the galaxy. As Elena stood on her bridge, watching Primus 7 recede in the view screen, Sarah approached her. Captain, did we just change galactic history? Elena thought about it. About 3 days that had transformed from fear to friendship. About a crew of 12 who had represented 8 billion. About an empire so ancient it had forgotten how to be surprised. No, Doctor, Elena said with a smile. We just reminded them that history isn't finished. It's still being written, and now we get to write the next chapter together. The Resilience jumped to hyperspace, ahead of them, Earth, home, and everything they'd left behind. But now they carried something new. Proof that humanity wasn't alone and that when we reached for the stars reached back. Behind them, on Primus 7, the Council reconvened. Their agenda had changed. New exploratory missions were being planned. New research initiatives proposed. New dreams awakened. One species had arrived lost, but in finding themselves, they'd helped an entire galaxy remember what it meant to wonder. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, other species on other worlds looked up at their own skies and dreamed of the day they, too, might reach the stars and find the humans who taught the galaxy how to dream again.